Welcome everybody to Always Bayern Chelsea in collaboration with the one and only German Football Spotlight. I'm here.
We made
There we
it. We
go.
made it happen. We've met
Ring the
in the
bell.
flesh,
Here we
and now
are.
we meet online.
There we go. Yeah, we met in person at the Club World Cup, which is awesome. And we'll get to all of that, of course. But please remember to subscribe. This is a video episode, so it is on YouTube as well. Always Bayern Chelsea and the German Football Spotlight. I'll link your channel in this video description here. So, do you want to start off and introduce yourself or introduce your channel a little bit?
Wicked. Thank you, Danny. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
So my name's Craig. We have well, I say we because it's Gonzo and I, although I've just noticed that there's a Gonzo too. So yes, we are a German Football Spotlight channel. We've only been going since February this year, but the reality is, a bit like yourself, Danny. I'm 43. I've been a soccer nut since I was since I was probably Gonzo's height. We used to play like pickup games. I played in a league on a Sunday. I taught myself how to program. This sounds very big-headed and modest, but it's the truth, right? So I used to run my own fantasy football leagues with friends. Then I taught myself how to program in BASIC and then various compilers so I could make my own sort of primitive football manager games. And then that sort of gateway drug came along, right? So there was an obsession of playing Championship Manager as it was back in the day. And then Monday night, Eurosport, which used to be a cable channel here in Europe, they used to show this sort of grainy footage of soccer in Europe. And then it used to hang on the German section. I used to be, what, who are these people? I've heard about this FC Bayern Munich. Bearing in mind, I'd have been about 11 years of age. And then before you know it, you sort of enter puberty. Euro 96 comes around, and they're all on our doorstep because, of course, the UK hosted the European Championships in 1996. I never went to any games because I was 15, but again, we were obsessed. And when we used to recreate all those sort of games on FIFA as it was back then, while still playing Football Manager. But I always had this itch that, like, one day when I grew up, wouldn't it be cool to be some sort of soccer football journalist or end up in that sport? Anyway, then I worked in video games for 20 years. And then last few years I've been thinking, right, how can I when I go on these business trips, how can I do some ground hopping and then capture footage of it and then put it on YouTube and see how it goes? And then running my own little consultancy business in games. This all sounds like a nasty plug, but don't worry about that. It's not. I'm getting to the good part, which is I then got to a point where I was working with clients around the world and I was able to do different ground hopping, especially in the US and in Europe. And then I was really ill at the start of this year. And then you're surprised that a lot happens when you're staring at four walls in a hospital ward. And I was like, right, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. So again, I upgraded for my my wheezy MacBook, bless her, and I splurged all this money on this PC hardware and started making video content. And of course, like you probably did, very early on, you go, right, who are the people that have got communities that I can connect with because I can grow as a person and as a channel through just learning what they do. And I discovered you and Big Jim quite early on. It must have been about March time. So that was during the sort of second half of the post winter break in the Bundesliga. And I was like, these guys are really cool. I've got to meet these one day. And of course, we made that happen. So that's a very long-winded way of saying this is the German Football Spotlight channel. We try and cover everything that involves football as it is in Germany. Yeah, we have sort of hung our coattails on the back of FC Bayern Munich, but of course, if we hadn't done that, you and I wouldn't have met. So yes, that's the channel basically. And if Gonzo doesn't come with me, I'd go ground hopping. We covered a Hull City game yesterday because, of course, we're in the UK, and Hull City is a football club, is an EFL team. It's a championship team, so it's not in the Premier League. It has been in the Premier League twice. Big Jim keeps convincing me that we're going to go up again. We're not. We're not going to make it this season. We've gone through three managers in 2 years. The latest guy is of Yugoslavian background. He's got us the nous, right? He strikes me as he's been a pretty good car lot salesman in his time. He's got the command and the respect of the players. So yeah, we ground top because we're a season ticket holder at Hull City. But yeah, our heart is really with the Bundesliga and everything that goes on in that world.
Yeah, well, what an awesome intro. Yeah, you really summed
Bit
up.
of TMI there, Danny, wasn't it? A bit of TMI, which you probably
No,
got
I
first time when we met in Cincinnati after probably a few too many drinks. But we did meet
we
the
did
legend
meet.
who just retired the other day, didn't he? Rafinha.
Yep.
He retired, didn't he? Age 39, bless him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's like I said, such an awesome intro. I like hearing about all of it. I love hearing about everybody's stories, and that's really one of the coolest things about becoming just a big football fan is getting to meet. Yeah, fix that up a little bit. Think, but I love getting to meet people from really across the globe. Jim just did a collab the other
I
day.
saw it
It's
with
it's
Rodver, the Indian chap. Yeah,
Yep,
really good.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, another Chelsea fan from India, so that's cool. I've done
And you one with Liam
collaborations.
from the Bayern view. That
Yep,
was really
yep.
insightful. Yeah, you really did sort of get under the skin of the transfer saga that's going on and your expectations for the season. And you did a little bit of you touched on the Club World Cup, which was great because of course that's where we met.
That's where we met. Yeah, so we'll get there of course too. But yeah, and I've also done collaborations with the Radio Muller channel from Ukraine. So
Oh,
there's
Oleg,
like
who looks like the Bond villain. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
So he
we're
looks
getting
like he's in a Bond villain's layer. He's not a Bond
with
villain.
his
He's
lighting.
he's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
brilliant, yeah,
yeah.
but he's like
But yeah, so I mean, I guess also I should introduce myself if you're watching this somewhere else. But my name's Danny. This Always Bayern Chelsea channel is my friend Big Jim and I. He's a Chelsea fan. I'm a Bayern fan, so that's where
up
the
the
name
Chelsea,
comes
up the
from.
Chelsea.
Up the Chelsea, yeah, yeah. We always get the question, how could you possibly be a fan of both? And no, it's two people. We're documenting our journey of this love of this awesome sport, and yeah, meeting people like you, traveling around, seeing as much as we can see, and just becoming citizens on planet football, and just
Love it.
loving this
Planet
this
football,
global
love it.
game. So that's awesome. But yeah, I've been watching your videos now as you've been home from the Club World Cup and putting up all of your documentation of just your travels throughout America, ground hopping for all these Club World Cup matches, and it's been awesome to see. You do a great job of showcasing the cities as well, and just your whole experience surrounding the Club World Cup. So, do you want to
Oh, you're too
start there
kind,
and,
Dan.
and
You're too
and talk a
kind.
little bit? Yeah, talk a little bit about just your overall experience because you went to how many matches? Like five or
Yeah, well, if
six?
if,
You were
if we just if I may rewind slightly, so that the week before I flew out to the US, I'd covered the UEFA Nations League. So I went to the Deutschland. I went to see the National Mannschaft game. That was against Portugal, where you know it's tragic that obviously people like Diego Jota and his brother Andre Silva have since passed. But we were
yep.
fortunate to see him that night because Deutschland were playing Portugal. I mean, I thought, and that was an amazing experience, by the way. So that was my first time visit to the Allianz. Not my first time to Munich, because of course we've done Oktoberfest and we've forgotten most of what we did at Oktoberfest in a previous life. But
Yeah.
that game was just like just an electric atmosphere. And again, in terms of this sport, Planet Football, which we're gonna have to ring the cliche bell and you coin that on in future. I was on the S-Bahn traveling from downtown. So from Mariannplatz, which is like where obviously right. So every
Yeah.
year when they obviously when the when they win the lift the salad bowl,
Yeah. The
you
city
get the
square.
X-Bahn from there, right? So and I happened to hear the sound of like two people opening. One guy was opening a bottle of beer off the top of the other one, and all I turned around and went was, "Oh, that's cool." And the guy was like, English," and I showed him my Hull City season pass, and he went, Tim Walter. I won't do the voice. Too late now. And of course, he knew who that was because Hull City previously had a German manager, and then he was like, you come with us," and then that was it. It was a whole tailgating experience. We went up the like thousands of steps to get to the top row of the Allianz.
Wow.
It was a fantastic experience. And in fact, I get goosebumps every time. In fact, the highlight of this year has got to have been listening to that German national anthem in the sort of build up to that game against Portugal. It was sensational. So the
Yeah.
next day, in a rather sort of fuzzy headed state, because that Spartan beer is pretty potent, I went to watch France versus Spain 5-4, which was like, that was at Stuttgart. So we did a lot of traveling. So it
Hmm.
started to get under my skin. I was like, I could probably do some more of this. I should edit this video, put it on YouTube, see what response we get. And then my instinct was like, this Club World Cup's going on. This is going to be the one chance I get to meet Danny and Big Jim. So not that I'm putting the pressure on you because you absolutely delivered on it, but literally the week before, I went around Germany watching Deutschland, and then I booked the trip on the Monday, and the Friday I flew out. So that was how quick things happened. But yeah, it was. I think I did 8 cities in total in 18 days. I think I took in, it was six games, 6, 7 games that I went to every single FC Bayern group game, went to watch a Dortmund game in, well, as I found out, yeah, staying downtown in Newark was a little bit of an eye-opening experience for,
Uh,
for a white middle-class guy from the
sure.
north of England. That was quite electrifying. And then the highlight of that entire trip, I would say, and there is a nice ending to this, was being spat at by the Boca Juniors fans in the Hard Rock Stadium. Now, and I wasn't even drinking that night. I probably did push it a little bit too far when Bayern Munich scored and the shirt came off and it was going around my head. And it was this and that, wasn't it? Which still to this day, I'm not convinced that there was a foul by Gnabry on the keeper. Anyway, and then of
No,
course
I'm
FC
not.
Bayern
I'm not
score.
convinced either.
FC Bayern scored in the 12th minute, so that same routine goes on again. Then there was a bachelor party, or a stag party, as we call it in England. 11 guys came and stood right in front of me, and the banter was good. And then I accidentally, just by trying to scan the crowd, because I'm always thinking like you are, I need to get some B-roll footage for the travel log just to set some ambience. And I accidentally captured the equalizer. And oh my God, did those Boca Junior fans let me know. And there was some exchange of bodily fluids, which was all in good faith, by the way. But of course, right towards the end of the game, when FC Bayern got that win, it was off again, and they did sort of begrudgingly like sort of clap, and then they all cleared off, and it was 3-1. And that last goal, was it Conrad Lime? I think scored. And it was like margin, it was like inches offside.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. So the final score ended up being 2-1 because of
Ended up
that
being 2-1,
offside
yeah.
goal. Yeah. And hey, you were doing the Lord's work at that match because that seemed like such a hostile environment. It seemed like a home match for Boca
Oh,
Juniors to
absolutely. I
me.
think I remember saying in my video that if for you football connoisseurs, which of course you and Big Jim are, if you look at some of the accounts from the Dutch players from the 1978 World Cup final between the Netherlands and Argentina, which was in
Yeah.
Buenos Aires,
Yep.
their account is if we'd have won that game, we wouldn't have got out alive. Right.
Yep.
And of course, that semi final was fixed because they did beat Denmark 6-0. Right.
Mm.
So it's like, okay. Yeah, walking into that environment where I reckon out of a 63,000 capacity crowd, 61,000 of those were Argentinian.
Yeah.
And of course, that was the great thing about the FIFA Club World Cup being held in the USA, because it's not far for those nations to travel, right? For those Brazilian teams, for those Argentinian teams, it's not far. And of course, the makeup of America, what with the 300 million plus person population, pretty
Yep.
much all those nations were covered, right? And they'll be covered next year when we go into the big boy, right? The national, the actual World Cup proper. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah. Good. I mean,
That's my highlight. No, my
I,
highlight, yeah, which
I
you know,
think, yeah, I mean, there's both sides to the Club World Cup. Is it a money grab? Is it this? Is there corruption with FIFA? Yeah. But also, I think it was a great opportunity for obviously people like me. Like, I live in America and it's a lot easier for me to drive 6 hours to Cincinnati to watch Bayern Munich play than it would be to fly over to Munich or wherever in Europe. And, shout out to those South American fans because there was a
absolutely.
lot, a lot of great fans from Brazil, Argentina, coming up to North America to watch these games. So was that the craziest environment you think you saw out of all the games you went to?
It was the most hostile. I mean, bearing
Yeah.
in mind that I've been married and divorced, so that was probably even more hostile than that. I joke aside, but yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think in terms of yeah, just in terms of passion from both sets of supporters, and just the yeah, I mean, put it this way, I don't know if you actually watched the game or you've seen the highlights back, but if you
Yeah.
see all the pomp and the ceremony where you've got individual players walking on whilst being announced,
Totally
where
Americanized.
from what which I don't mind that actually. I mean,
Mhm.
jumping around slightly, I quite enjoy Michael Buffer's "Let's get ready to rumble."
Yeah,
I'm a fan of
yeah.
that. Do it
Yep.
in the semi, in the final, but don't overdo it. Right? Don't overkill what that legend is. But
Yeah.
just come back. I could see on the screens, and I could see him, my hero, King Conrad. All hail the king. He came out and he looked up, and the crowd were just jeering, just like snarling, and you could see on his face. And he looked round as if to let Harry Kane know we've got a fucking game here. Like
Yeah.
we've got to behave. We've got to turn up, get the first tackle in. It was just electric.
Yeah.
I don't think there was many other hostile environments. The beautiful thing about the end of the Dortmund Fluminense game was that well, I say we. Gonzo he was holding. Well, actually, he was practicing Football Manager. He wasn't. He wasn't with us. But
Yep.
I ended up stumbling into a bit of a samba dance with all these Fluminense fans, which was just like totally funny. Again,
Nice.
random white guy from the north of England stuck out a mile, but they let me into this little samba dance, which was pretty cool. Flags, horns, the whole lot. So that was pretty fun.
Oh man,
Um,
that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. What do you think about the Club World Cup as a whole? Now that it's over, we've had a little bit of time to maybe digest it. You're back home, not running from city to city and trying to catch this train and this bus and this plane. What do you think about your experience as a whole? I want to hear about it.
yeah, well, tackling the latter point there about the transport and the infrastructure, I, I appreciate now when I come back to the UK and go, Christ, we're in a bit of a mess. I mean, which is a bit of a random thing to say. You compare that with Germany getting around again. You know, the beautiful thing about travel in Europe and in Germany in particular is that there is a Flughafen and there's a train that goes straight to the auto
Yep.
Bahnhof, right? So yeah, there's a terminal station from the airport to the station, and then there's usually an underground, overground, wobbling free. There's usually a lot of transportation on offer. In most of the cities in the US we went to, Atlanta in particular, same with Miami. Um, it was obviously like New York, Newark not so much, but yeah, Atlanta, Miami, they were the two standouts that it just seemed it was just seamless. The
Hmm.
only time we ever took an Uber was in Cincinnati on the Monday morning after we'd met you that weekend because there was an early flight to Newark. And I just there was no trains. Again, the infrastructure is slightly different. I love Cincinnati, as you know, because we've had some back and forth
Hmm.
on X as much as we have on text on SMS messages, right? But the street art in Cincinnati just absolutely blew me away. And the fact that you and Big Jim said, "Oh, on a Sunday morning, yeah, let's meet at 10 o'clock at the pitch near
Yeah.
near Adams over the Rhine, near the soccer bar across the road from the TQL Stadium."
Yeah. And then I
I
sat
got
in
up
a
really
bagel
early.
shop for 20 minutes because
Yeah.
everybody in the whole city wanted to get a bagel from that one shop that morning.
Well, that must say a lot about the quality of the bagels, Danny, right?
Yeah. It
But
was the only
because I got
place
up,
open, I think.
yeah, because I got up so early, and
Yeah.
I like to find a street. I do it every time I go to San Francisco, which again sounds very vain of me, but I've been very fortunate in my career that I've been able to travel to major cities like the US. There's some great street art up at Haight Ashbury at the top of the hill there in San Francisco,
Oh
and it was the
yeah.
same in Cincinnati. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so the transport, the infrastructure in the major cities like Atlanta and Miami was brilliant. I suppose the only comical incident was in Miami was having to take a free monorail, a train, and then being on the Boca bus. I've got these photos that of like just there was like probably 80 of us crammed into this little bus, and it was like wall to wall, blue and yellow, right?
Yeah.
Just all these Boca Junior fans, but there's no Argentinian spoken by this lad from the north of England. I
Hmm.
don't, to be honest, their English wasn't so good, but we had some banter and we got there. But it was 15 kilometers away from downtown.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
mean,
on the, but on the, on the next few, I think it was on the day when I was transiting up to Fort Lauderdale, however you pronounce it. The night before, I bumped into all these Palmeiras fans, and they were just wild.
oh
Like it was a
yeah.
complete accident. We were sat on the edge of the bar. They've all got their shirts on. Hey, what are you doing here, Englishman? I'm following the German teams. It took a while for them to get their heads around it, but we got a lot of subscribers from it. So it just proves that international travel, yes, it's a very expensive way of pulling in subscribers to a channel, but you can't, there's no substitute for the people and the quality of the conversation. They invited me to a tailgate party the day after, which in itself involved like yachts, people jumping into the water, just like cigars. They were having a whale of a time because, of course, I think Palmeiras were playing into Miami on the Monday evening. And again, yes, so I'm jumping around all over the place, but being able to sit in the Mercedes Benz Stadium in air conditioning with a Bacardi and a Miller Lite,
It can't be
and
beat.
the guy in front of me was saying to his buddy when Inter Miami got a free kick, he was getting so much shit going. He's never going to score from there. He's never going to score from there. he's never gonna. And it was a worldie top corner,
Oh,
like
was that
from Messi.
The
That was
Messi free
Messi.
kick?
That was the
Yeah,
winning
yeah,
goal in
yeah.
because they won that game. They beat Porto 2-1. And it
Yep.
was just like, again, camera was out, wrong place, right time. Yeah, I'll have a bit of that. Thank you very much.
Oh,
So yeah, I think my spirits, my guardians, yeah, the angels above me were putting me in the right place at the right time. That's for
good.
sure.
Good. Yeah, man. It's I mean, from my experience, public transportation, first of all, in the US, totally varies from city to city. Some cities do it well, some cities don't. And the thing you have to think about too in America, which is different, I think, from other countries, in terms of where the sporting stadiums are, some of them are perfect right downtown. The Milwaukee Bucks Stadium, Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee is like that. I can walk to it from where I live, perfect, no problem. But then there's some stadiums that are way out of the city and they're just surrounded by parking lot and concrete. And it seems like that's the experience you had in New York, New Jersey. I think MetLife is a little bit farther out of the actual city. So it's like, yeah, there's things like that. But throughout it all, the most important thing to experience and to remember is, like you said, just meeting these fans from around the world. And that's like the coolest part of this game. That's something that's really pulling me in as an American fan. We have all these American sports, which I like always loved, grew up loving. But the thing about football is it's just so global and it's like the whole like ecosystem is just macro and it's awesome and it's so like entangled in cultures and economics and politics from all these different countries and it's awesome. It's such a phenomenon. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. So that again, that not to make this all about like a Craig's travel vlog because it's a football discussion, right? But
Yeah.
with the two buses to get to the MetLife from downtown Newark, I ended up sort of instructing. They were Tunisian. I'm not sure if it was husband and wife or brother and sister or boyfriend girlfriend, whatever. But he had
Yeah.
a Juventus top on, and he looked a bit flustered. And of course, the woman was screaming, "If you want the MetLife, go!" So I was like, "Oh, we've got to go now, son." So I sort of grabbed him and he's +1, and then we're walking. We're walking against the traffic on a hard shoulder to somehow
Ooh.
find on the horizon when it sort of rose up through the clouds the
Yep.
MetLife Stadium. And we got talking. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Dortmund fan because I'm looking out for Ben Tabiani." And I was like, "Ah, you must be Tunisian then." And he was like, "Yes." And I told him from Hull City because I whip out the season pass, and he's like, "Oh, Balumi." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a tragic that he got injured last year. He's a winger. I think he only played like a couple of games, and he went down with an ACL. Which, by the
Mm,
way, so did our left winger, who's the Canadian maestro Liam Miller. So yeah, that
brutal.
that that was fun. And then again, they ended up being my 100 subscribers. So we hit the 100 subscribers mark
Woo!
through meeting two Tunisian Dortmund fans on the way to the MetLife Stadium.
That's how you
And
do
then I
it.
think somebody must have thought, "Oh, I'll make your life difficult, Craig." So somebody unsubscribed. So I was on 99. And then after that
Hate
game
that.
finished, I turned around and there were father and son from Guatemala. And they were like, "Oh, yeah, we'll subscribe." So that got me to the 100 again. So it's like, we hit the 100 twice in the same day. But we met, yeah, Tunisians, we met some Germans, we met some Guatemalans. Like you say, it's a micro it's a microclimate, the FIFA Club World Cup, but it's a global game, right? And it brought everyone together. Yeah, I got recommendations from people in Atlanta to when I was in Miami to go, "Oh yeah, go and check out Coconut Grove, check out this sports franchise called Flanagan's. You'll love it. It's part Irish." I'm like, I'm not actually Irish, but I'll accept that if they do drink.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
was
yeah.
brilliant. Like it was a great
Got you.
experience. And that guy happened to be in the Miami fan. He wanted to get involved in the channel. And I would always say, look, if there's genuine FC Bayern Munich fans that I met, I was like, you also need to follow Danny and Big Jim because those
Oh,
guys do it proper, right?
thank
We're
you.
just here for Atlee Gonzo. We're just here to spread the Lord's prayer according to the Bundesliga, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
the Deutsche Fußballbund. But you guys do it proper. Anyway, I've gone on too long, but yes, I enjoyed it because the travel was rewarding because we met people from all over the world. And in terms of my experience, yeah, I did think when it was FC Bayern Munich 10, Auckland City nil, I did think, is this all this tournament's going to become? Just a
Mm,
glorified um, global exhibition tournament? Is this all it's going to be? But then actually, you bring in those South Americans, you bring in the Argentinians, the Brazilian teams. That Fluminense Dortmund game was a clash of as much a clash of cultures for the fans. It was a clash of styles on the pitch, And again, all credit to Fluminense, and even Palmeiras in the games that we watched. I
Hmm.
mean, they played Chelsea, right? Big Jim will tell you about that.
Oh
But they
yeah.
went on the kickoff, the way that they pressed in numbers. There was three guys in the same jersey around a Dortmund player as there was in that Chelsea game. So yeah, it was a clash of stars and a clash of culture. But of course, to use your one line, we are all united on planet football, aren't we?
That's right. Yeah. What a nice sentiment. All right, let's talk about Bayern Munich now. This is always Bayern Chelsea, so let's jump into what are our expectations for Bayern Munich this season, 25-26 upcoming.
I'm happy for you to take the driver's seat and navigate us across the line. Of course, because from our perspective, we and that right, Gonzo, our hearts and minds go out to all the teams in the Bundesliga. Of course, Bayern Munich's your specialist subject, so I'm happy to hear about that. Tell us about Luis Diaz. Let's start there. Tell us about
Yeah.
how he impacted the game yesterday and how that works out for you, and then what the rest of the season is going to look like. And our Gonzo will prod me in the back when it's our time to talk.
Yeah, so that's a good place to start, I think, because Luis Diaz is most likely going to be Bayern's biggest signing this offseason. I hope that they make a couple more signings here and there. Maybe we can talk about that in a little bit. But starting with Diaz, he seems to be the guy that Bayern was chasing for a while, was trying to sign. And they got him. They got their man. He made his debut yesterday in the friendly against Lyon. And I liked what I saw overall from him yesterday. Now it's a little interesting because, Bayern truly, I think, did treat this as a friendly. They wanted to win, but they played two different lineups, first half, second half, complete 11 players switch out, and they, mixed a lot of veterans with a lot of youngsters and guys who are kind of on the cusp of that first team, second team bubble, which was good to see, I thought, in preseason. But yeah, so that all that's to say is Diaz came in and he was with Gnabry and Olise, but like he wasn't with Kane, so it wasn't the complete full picture of the attack that we're going to see, but I liked what he could do. He brought great energy, looked dangerous, couldn't get a goal to fall. The keeper had a number of nice saves, but he did draw a penalty, which Olise took and
Yes.
buried. So overall, it was nice to see the energy and kind of the life that he brought on that side of that side of the attack. I think it's something that Bayern has kind of been lacking and kind of been missing the last couple years.
And it looked to be a slight scare that I saw on X at full time. There was a still of him rubbing his knee. There was a
Yeah.
suspected injury that he might have picked up, but I think he gave the thumbs up to the big brain one, and it was like, yeah, okay, just carry on, right? Nothing to
Yeah,
see.
I was super worried about that. I was watching it all happen after the match, and I was like, here we go again. This cursed team is already injured before the season even starts. But no, he did participate in like post-match sprints afterwards, so I think he's gonna be okay. But when I saw that, it was like war flashbacks. I'm looking at Musiala, I'm looking at Davies, all these guys, and I was like, oh no, here we go again.
I saw that Paul Wanner played, right? So
Mhm.
Bischoff, Paul Wanner,
Yep.
and the other guy that was up top that also his name begins with a K.
Leonard Carl,
I
yeah.
do see. Yeah, so it was Leonard Carl and it was Kiala. Is that right? The striker?
Kiala, no, so that's Kusi Asari, I think you might be thinking of.
Sorry, yes.
But
Yeah, yeah.
Kiala did play as well in the second half. Kusi Asari and Kiala played in the second half. So yeah, we saw a number of guys who are like kind of second team to first team guys. But it'll be interesting to see with the likes of like Bischoff, Vonner, and Carl, I think are a little bit more established than some of these guys. And, the preseason is going to be their opportunity to really show what they're made of. And all of those guys I thought were decent. I was probably most impressed with Carl. Yeah, Bischoff did fine, I thought, and then Vonner maybe was a little bit lower, but all those guys are gonna have to really do a lot, I think, to actually like prove their mettle and make the first team. But they were all decent, but not great, I thought.
Well, then Carl's only like 17. Is that right?
Yeah, he is
Very
17.
young, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it sounds like he's going to make the first team, but is going to be essentially used as Olise's backup, and we'll see how often Olise ever sits. It doesn't seem like Olise, Kane, Musiala, when they're healthy, those guys pretty much never leave the pitch.
And my heart also went out to poor Adam Asnu, who it's just, yeah, sort of, it felt like he's been overlooked. He's had his window, it didn't quite work out for him, and he's been shipped off to Everton, it's just great for him, right? Because it's going to absolutely guarantee that he gets minutes. Selfishly, it's great for Gonzo and I because we watch Premier League games as often as what we need to, because you might have noticed we do happen to be closet Arsenal fans as well.
Hmm.
Which is great for Adam Ashley. But Everton, just slight point. They are struggling to land marquee signings. Wouldn't quite put Adam Asner in that bracket, but it's great for him anyway, right? Because he's going to get, like I say, he's going to get regular game time.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who, well, Adam Asnu in particular, I think really wanted game time, and I think he kind of made it clear that if he wasn't going to get game time, he wanted to leave. So good for him. He'll get game time at Everton, whereas I guess he wouldn't have really at Bayern Munich. But yeah, that's one of the things I'm really looking for with Vincent Kompany and Bayern Munich this year in their evolution is can they integrate some of these academy guys, some of these guys who are, again, on the cusp of first team, because last year Vincent Kompany didn't rotate really at all, and that was one of the biggest criticisms you see levied at him. We get to the end of the year and all these first team starters are hurt, all these key players are hurt. Could that have been prevented with rotation? Maybe in some cases, maybe not in some other cases. But yeah, I think like for me, last year was a little bit of a trial run for Kompany. You obviously at Bayern you need to win or else you're out the door. So it's not a true trial run, but I think I kind of was trying to give him a little bit of a grace period as a fan to get his feet underneath him. And now I'm really going to be looking for him and the team in general to kind of grow and move into that next step, which is hopefully winning the Bundesliga again. I'd like to see a double. I think they should really try to win the Pokal this year as well. And I don't expect them to win the Champions League, but I'd like them to make a deep run.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with all those points, and just picking up on that about the expectation that's on the big brain one. So, as part of our research coming to this, the other week we watched the Thomas Muller documentary, which is we watched it on Amazon, which was
Hmm.
brilliant, a brilliant insight into his life. It went all the way up to the Euros, European Championships, of course, which was being held in Germany.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for if it wasn't for Big Jim's professional figure skater, then yeah, it would. Which
Handball.
another like just going down the rabbit hole in Stuttgart, where we met a man that had a VFB tattoo right on his chest, which was just like that was awesome. Um, of course, that game was Spain versus France. So every time that Cucurella got anywhere near the ball, the sort of like the loyalists that were from Stuttgart or just the Deutschland fans that were just sort of hanging over for the tournament were just giving him absolute pelters, which I
Yeah.
think he deserved, don't know. And then the other documentary we watched was and you mentioned this when we met in Cincy, was the septuple winning year under Hansi Flick. So
Hmm.
again, this is a six-part series, which kind of very clever in its non-linear approach. It sort of starts with Hansi in the dressing room about to say, right, this has been emotional, lads. I've got a message for you. And then it sort of rewinds and then cuts through the season, which is fantastic. And
That's cool.
it really did put the spotlight under the pressure, which ultimately, I mean, even for a guy like Hansi Flick, he more or less says, look, I can't take this. Like I've won everything that I need to. But then cut to another interview with what's his name? Not Max Eberl with his glasses and shiny pants, not Uli Hoeneß. Is it Mr. Heimer? Yeah.
Karl-Heinz Rummenigge could have
No,
been.
not Rummenigge, no, because
No.
he stepped down, I think, in
Oh,
that
Herbert Heiner maybe.
recent. Yeah, so he was
Yeah.
saying, but the thing with Bayern Munich is you've got to do this every year.
Yeah.
And it felt like Hansi Flick probably wanted to test himself managing the Deutschland national team, but at the same time, 7 trophies and that relentless pressure to keep winning every week. Again, there was another, I think it was episode 5, where a few of the guys are injured, and there's like some banter going. Well, all right, I think they got knocked out of the Champions League, sadly,
Hmm.
by PSG the year after
Yeah.
they were final, right?
Lewandowski was injured. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some banter in the dressing room was like, it's okay because we're going to win the Bundesliga, and it's like, yeah, but that's that, but we want more, right? There's an expectation, there's a hunger, there's a desire to
Yep.
win like every single time you cross that white line, which was just great. I thought we'd throw that one out there just for research purposes. But
Oh yeah, I love that. Hansi Flick is my favorite coach as well. So I love his style. I love his tactics. I love his leadership. I love everything about Hansi. So glad you brought him up, and I'll never not jump in at the opportunity to give praise to Hansi Flick. So yeah, that's cool. But that's kind of the attitude at Bayern Munich, and you hit the nail on the head there. If you don't win pretty much everything, people are gonna be barking at you, and so I'm interested to see what company's second season brings because I think the pressure is gonna build if he doesn't deliver those results, and I do like what I've seen from company overall. I really do like his man management. I like how he handles the media. There's certainly a few things I maybe don't agree with or wish he would do differently, of course. But overall, I mean, as such a young coach, stepping into an environment like FC Hollywood, like Bayern Munich, it's something else. And I think he's done a good job at managing that. But yeah, expectations this year are going to be higher, and I'm hoping for a double. I really am.
him for a double is
Yep.
like keeping the bar there. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Bayern should win the Bundesliga. Nothing is a given. Obviously, everybody in the hierarchy of Bayern, the higher ups, they all talk about how the Bundesliga is the most important to them, and I mean, their success in the league over the last couple decades has shown that, I think. So I'm expecting a Bundesliga. I think if Bayern goes out there and does what they need to do, they can win the league again. But I really want that cup. I want that German cup, and I want a deep Champions League run.
I think we'll get onto that. The other point I should have mentioned when I was watching that documentary was that some changes behind the scenes on the coaching staff. The guy that found Thomas Muller and Tony Cruz and Schweinsteiger and Musiala, he's just retired, right? I can never remember. Is it something?
Tiger?
Now the old boy he's in his 60s. I think Garland, Herman Garland, which
Yeah.
sounds like he belongs in the SS, right? Which you could edit this bit out, which I know you won't, which is good.
Uh,
Yeah, there was a lot of fondness between the players and obviously because he found this talent. And obviously you got the wonderful academy anyway. I'm just curious as to what that micro level of detail will have. I suppose that's a 5 or 10 year kind of further into the future kind of point to take into consideration. But it does feel like here and now, with the transfer window still open, and obviously if you're going to lock down on Carl as a backup to Michael East, then maybe there's not going to be any other transfers coming in. Where's your head and your heart on that in terms of who else would you want to see in? Who do you think's going to come in? Because again, that window's kind of the season starts in 2 weeks' time, right? Or maybe
yeah, I
in
mean,
less 2 weeks' time, isn't it, for the
the
for
Super
the
Cup is
for
the
the lockout? Yeah,
16th.
Super Cup,
Yep.
and then against Stuttgart, and then there's the home game against Leipzig, right?
Yep. Yeah,
So
yeah.
transfers, yeah, but let's do that because I'm fascinated by what your thoughts are as to where do you think you are short, who would you like to come in, and what
Y-
do you think ultimately you'll end up with?
Sure. Yeah, I think that right now Bayern is going to probably turn up the heat on the Nick Valdemata situation with Stuttgart.
Voldemort.
I think that's something that they need to do. Now, Stuttgart is playing hardball and they're, not going to sell him unless they get over double of what his value is in the transfer market. So Bayern's going to have to really cough up a pretty penny if they want him. But I think that especially with the Musiala injury, Bayern's in kind of a tough spot because they have guys who can fill that 10 role. You could put Gnabry in there, but is that the best? Is that your best foot forward? Not really. I don't really like Gnabry at the 10. You could put Olise there, but then it's like you have a hole on the right wing, so it's like I don't know. There's guys that can fill that spot, but I think Bayern needs to make another move here. Could it be someone like Xavi Simons? Maybe, but it seems like he's on his way to Chelsea. It seems like Jim is gonna have his way with Xavi
when
Simons.
they
So
when they extend that dressing room once again, Bobby into Fulham, Bobby into
yeah,
Knightsbridge.
yeah. So there's moves that can't be made. I think Voldemada is the number one priority target that they got to get right now because if Bayern really has identified him as the eventual successor to Kane when Kane leaves, you might as well get him now because his value is only going to go up and up and up. And obviously, again, with the injury to Musiala, he could play that 10 potentially. But you just don't want to see another Florian Wirtz situation where Bayern identifies this guy that they want and think another team is going to develop him, and then he'll eventually just come to Bayern anyways, because as we saw this summer, that didn't work out. So Voldemort is my priority transfer target at the moment. But you could try to still go for like another left winger. Rodrigo's still out there. Um, I've said it before, but I love Eze on Palace. It sounds like he might be headed to Arsenal. Gonzo might be happy about that one, but
Could be your
um,
age, Gonzo.
I mean, there's rumors all the time. There's rumors that Bayern might be looking to sign another center back. Potentially Kim could leave. I'm okay with our center back situation right now. If we want to keep Upa, Ta, and Kim, I think that's okay. I would focus on Valdemata at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at the data, which a lot of the videos on our channel, well, we're more comfortable when we've got some data to talk about. So Voltamada then, so he's a 23-year-old last season, 19 goals, 2 assists across all competitions. Now he's absolutely on fire for the under 21s, which is kind of perverse because he's 23, but I guess there's a loophole, right, in how that
Yeah,
selection process works. But 60 plus million for a 23-year-old who 19 goals and 2 assists. And then there's some arguments in our Discord about Ekatike, right? So again, I was sad because, you know, covering the Bundesliga, you don't really want the stars. We've already lost Florian Wirtz and Frimpong. I mean,
yep,
Xhaka, bless him, that was. I don't know if you've seen this, but Granit Xhaka, ex-Arsenal hardman, and he Gonzo, has just signed for Sunderland.
I
And it
did.
was a
Yeah,
cringe-worthy video where he's trying to come out with the local dialect. How are you, the lads? And it's like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, fair enough, mate. He's a champion in midfield, but we didn't need to see that one. But Ekatike, yeah, I mean, he signed for Liverpool. He's 23, 22 goals, 11 assists last year. But I guess the argument is it's the potential and it's the resale value, which is always my point. But then I always get shot down by Gonzo and other Arsenal fans that we know saying, well, Gokeres is 27, you know, and actually
yeah.
Havertz, I'm spoonerism again, right? Kai Havertz is not exactly young, but 65 million down the drain, Kai Havertz scores again. It doesn't really matter if you're putting the ball in the back of the net. It's just from the outside looking in as we become more and more invested in FC Hollywood, especially for meeting people like you and Big Jim. It does look like who's actually making these decisions. Again, I quote that documentary. It's fascinating to see that kind of that politicking that was going on at the time between goalkeeper Angry Man Oliver Kahn and Ollie Hoeneß and Rummenigge, and there was like two or three people on that exec committee. It's like if you could just agree on something before you go public, then it would have
Yeah.
probably saved the embarrassment, which is the Florian Wirtz sort of saga, right? But again, we don't have to keep going over that one. But
Yeah, well, that's
just get
that's
it.
the number one problem that I have with Bayern Munich's transfer strategy is I think there is a lack of vision, and I think that lack of vision comes from too many cooks in the kitchen. You have all these different parties that, for one, have to be aligned, so transfers almost never happen, it seems like, or they take forever. You have first of all from the highest point, you have that supervisory board, Uli and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. And then you have the supervisory board, or I guess the under them you have the sporting directors, which is multiple people as well. You have Christoph
Oh,
Freund, and then you have the director
what
of
does he do
sport,
though? What does
which
he
is
actually do? I mean,
yeah,
Liam made that point, right? When you went on that epic collab, it's like
yeah,
that
yeah.
guy tears his hair out. Like, what
Well,
does what does he do?
Christoph Freund is the technical sporting director, but he apparently is mostly supposed to focus on the academy. And then you have Max Eberl, who is the director for sport, who's supposed to focus on transfers. And then obviously underneath him, you still have like the coaching staff who needs to be aligned with their vision, the players. So there's all these people that have to be aligned, and it makes things hard to get done actually. And then obviously, like I said, too many cooks in the kitchen, and you end up getting players for example, like Tom Bischoff, who could be a great talent, could be a great player, but it's like, do they have a plan for him? The midfield is already overloaded. You have Kimmich, Pavlovic, Goretzka, King Conrad Leimer, who's technically a midfielder. Yeah, ring the bell. Joao Palhinha, who it sounds like is going on loan now to
Oh, he's
Tottenham.
gone out to
But
Yid Army, right? He's gone to
yeah,
Spurs.
but he's another guy who it's like, did they have a vision for him? They spent 50 million euros on him, and he comes in, for a coach who needs a midfielder to play with the ball on his feet. And
Gets a
Polina's like
red
a
card on your anniversary birthday and lets Bochum win 3-2. Yeah.
yeah, and like Polina's like a physical six destroyer, and companies looking for a midfielder who can play with the ball, and Polina can't do that. So it's like you have all these cooks in the kitchen, and is there a vision? I don't know. And it's the same thing with these academy guys. It's like, do you have a vision for them, or are you just developing somebody for a different club? I don't know.
Here's a question, and I meant to ask you before in my sort of Frost versus Nixon. What did it feel like watching FC Bayern in that friendly without Thomas Muller being present?
Sad. It doesn't feel real yet. Maybe it will once I actually see him playing a match for Vancouver. But
I was going to say, yeah,
um,
you're going to see him again, right?
yeah, and I'm gonna have to try to get to a match and see him. Maybe if they play the Chicago Fire or something somewhere close to Milwaukee, I'll be able to get down and see him. But yeah, it was sad. I mean, I still think that Mueller could have stuck around for another year, especially with this hole at the 10 position now. I mean, it was a thing where I think Bayern was just overconfident that they were going to get Wirtz, and then they'd have two number 10s, Musiala and Wirtz, and Mueller would never play. But now it's like you could certainly use him, you know?
He's on the comeback trail, though, right? I've seen lots of images on the interwebs and on X of both Musiala and Fonzie stood
Yeah.
around together, especially training in the albeit light training in Sabana Strasse. So
Yeah.
that's very encouraging. And I guess just to round this off, then I know you were, and I'm not throwing you under the bus at all, Danny, but I know you were hypercritical of the big brain one in that FIFA Club World Cup, in that very first game against Auckland City, where it was like, did you have to play all these stars? I suppose
Hmm.
my take on it would have been, you want to come out in your first game to basically use a cliche to set your stall out, to make an impact. Now, when
Yeah.
that first goal went in after about 8 minutes, it was like, yes, it is going to be one of those games. Maybe make some substitutions at halftime. Maybe this might be egg on your face. And that game against Benfica, to jump around, that heat was absolutely, I mean, it was unbearable for us as fans. And again, we bought most of our tickets from resellers, which I'm not ashamed of doing that. I actually think we probably did better if you net average that out versus the dynamic pricing and what people played ahead of time. Anyway, that's
Hmm.
another conversation. But the tickets that we ended up buying were literally, I mean, in Philadelphia, for example, we were literally sat in the crow's nest.
Yeah.
Fantastic view, although not when the game kicked off between Real Madrid and so what do you have to call them now? They weren't called RB Salzburg, it was FC Salzburg,
Yeah.
because no
Red
multi-club
Bull.
ownership and no evil greed sponsorship, which you'd think Gianni Infantini would have been right behind. Anyway,
Oh
separate
yeah.
conversation. But when that rain was coming down, it wasn't the best place to be. But in Charlotte, oh my God, I've never known heat like it. And we have some nice European islands that we can go to on holiday in the summer because, of course, summer in the UK lasts for about 2 weeks. I've never known heat like it in Charlotte, to the point where this phone doesn't really work properly now. It glitches all the time because
Yeah.
of that heat. And again, we were sat at the top, and I'm thinking this. I mean, it was crackers. So that's the colloquialism, right? It was mental. Sorry, that during some of those Dortmund games, the substitutes were sat in the dressing rooms because apparently the heat was too much,
Yeah.
right? Which and again, that game against Benfica, to this day, I'm still not sure why that goal was given. Apparently Kimmich was he impeding the goalkeeper's view of the situation? Whatever. All
Yeah,
I'm
they
trying to
called
say
Kane.
is,
Yeah, they called Kane for that.
I wouldn't put too much responsibility on the big brain one that day, because that game, well, he probably shouldn't have kicked off when he did at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It should have been
Yeah.
a lot later, right, in the day. And of course they did what they did, and Musiala gets that nasty injury, and unfortunately, big Jim up the Chelsea ends up winning the tournament. But I will give him credit back to company for galvanizing the club coming off the back of the Thomas Tuchel U-ball, I think you affectionately call it, right? Or that's sarcasm, right? Which is exactly what he's doing to the England national team at the minute. It's not a
Yep.
very attractive setup. It is U-ball.
Hmm.
It's not really going to go anywhere. My fear is that if I go to the World Cup next year, it'll probably be to support the Deutschland because England won't make it. So I will give him credit for coming in and galvanizing him. Like you say, he's really good with the media. He's been naturally media trained. He speaks what, 7 different languages, so instantly he's
Yep.
able to communicate on an empathetic level with the players at halftime and afterwards, and in the changing rooms, as they're going through their training drills throughout the week. So I'll give him credit for galvanizing the team, which could have thrown the towel in, right? We might have said Leverkusen dynasty, but I know Big Jim's thoughts on Eric Ten Hag, and they're not very flattering. But let's give some credit to the big brain one. He's used it last season, but like you
Yeah.
say, the pressure now gets turned up to 11 because the expectation, as you've set, is the bare minimum is the Bundesliga won by February and the DFB Pokal final. So yeah, I don't know if you wanted to make some. I'm probably getting ahead of myself now. I was going to say we could have made some forecasts as to where we think people are going to end up. Obviously not first because that's a given, right? It's in the bag for FC Bayern, but we could have done that. I just thought it'd be interesting to look at some of the other teams that were in the
Yeah.
Bundesliga. So I guess the teams that we tend to, and again, sorry, I put a full stop in there. When we set this channel out, we were doing a couple of videos a week, but they were long. A, because as you've worked out firsthand, I can talk a lot, and B, it's 18 teams, right? It was a lot. And then it became very apparent when you look at the analytics and you go, well, we are doing this full time. They literally are. I sort of thought, yeah, there's too much ego in video games. This has been a passion of mine, football, since I was a young kid. Let's throw everything into this, but it means you can't cover all those teams because you just don't get the views, you don't get the clicks.
Hmm.
So inevitably, we focused around Bayern Munich, we focused around Leverkusen because, of course, we thought there was going to be that rivalry, that De Klassiker, which of course is obviously it's Dortmund and FC Bayern, but we thought it was going to run for Leverkusen. It sort of ran out of steam last year. I do think, contrary to what Big Jim says, that I know they did get beat, and you pointed this out, right? They did get beat by an under 20s, was it Santos team
Flamengo.
recently? Flamengo, right? So I knew it was Brazilian,
Hmm.
like 5-1 or whatever. They have turned it around. They have beaten Bochum, which, on a side note, and again, for somebody else's channel, Rye's Football Paradise, Bochum were in a bit of a mess, right? So Bochum went down. They
Hmm.
got beat in a sec. They got beat 2-0 in a friendly by Leverkusen. Nice kit, by the way. The sort of pink, and we're colorblind, right? As you can probably tell, but you know, obviously Arsenal playing pink, right? Pink and white. Nice away kit for Leverkusen, but
Hmm.
Bochum, man, they got smashed by Darmstadt 4-1 yesterday. And you're like, oh, they're not going to do a Luton Town, are they? And go down and down and down again. Um, so Leverkusen, yeah, that's interesting. The sort I was looking at the players that they've brought in. They brought a
Yeah.
guy, a striker, Abdullah Faye, who's coming from Hacken. Okay, but he's gone straight out and load to Lorient in League. And they brought in Mark Flecken from Brentford, the goalkeeper, because of course Hedrek has just gone. Where's he gone? He's gone to Monaco, right?
Monaco.
To join,
Yep. With Eric Dyer.
Eric Dyer. Ibrahim Matza, that's an interesting one. So that's an
Hmm.
attacking midfielder that's coming from Hertha. Tim Uwerman, however you pronounce that, he came in from Bochum. See, he saw the iceberg, right? But then he gets put out straight on loan. Where's he gone to? He has gone. Tim Uwerman's gone to Sturm Graz.
Oh
Again,
yeah.
side note, we're quite pleased because we went to see this small Austrian team, SV Rider, last year in the middle of the countryside, overlooking the sort of Austrian Alps. They got smashed by Sturm Graz in the cup competition, but they got promoted last year to the other Bundesliga, which is cool because, of course, on the technicality, it's still the Bundesliga, right? So we can still cover it.
Yeah, the
Joao
Austrian
Quanza,
Bundesliga.
Joao Quanza's come in for Liverpool, right? Because he wasn't really going to get a game in that back four when you've got Virgil and Ultra Canate.
Yep.
Axel Tape, whatever you want to call it, is coming from PSG. And the big one, I guess, is Malik Tillman,
Yep.
right? He's coming from PSV. So, yeah, that sort of puts, and again, I know Big Jim sort of smashes Eric Ten Hag, but he's a serial winner. And again, you know this, right? So he started out his career as a coach for FC Bayern's second team, but we did
Yep.
get promoted. And then, of course, he goes on for Ajax, where off the top of my dome, pretty sure he won like 5 trophies in 3 years, which technically should have been six, but because of COVID, it didn't count, right? So that was in 3 championships in
Yeah,
Holland, three Eredivisie in a
went on
row.
that Champions League run.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And of course, then he ends up at Manchester United, where in that first season, he does finish third, right? They do make the Champions League. All right, they crash out pretty soon. He wins 2 cups. He wins the League Cup, wins the FA Cup. So I think he has got some nous about him. But again, without the talisman that's Florian Wirtz, without Frimpong, without Away the lads, without the hard man Granit Xhaka and a new goalkeeper, that I think they are going to struggle. The other team that we, of course, apart from Bayern Munich, we cover is Dortmund, and
Hmm.
we tried to make some clever sort of like clickbait around. Oh, Dortmund signed another Bellingham, right? And he came in, Joe. We did again that game against Fluminense. We saw 15, 20 minutes of him where he looked pretty aggressive. Obviously, he did go on to score and become an assist master in a few of the games. Who else has come in there? Daniel Svensson had already signed full time from Norge Jarland. Is that how you pronounce it? I think so. And Jan Kuta has transferred over full time from Manchester City, the Brazilian that changes his hair color
Hmm.
every week. Gladbach, we tend to cover them because, of course, there
Big
is a
team.
commonality with Jupp Heynckes, right? The almighty. I mean,
Oh
that,
yeah.
that guy would probably still come out of retirement if, not when, if the big Braymon gets the chop, right? I mean, he did. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
he
He
grew up
always
playing
comes in to
for
save Bayern.
Gladbach, right? I was looking at his record before.
He just turned
Although this,
80, I think.
yeah, yeah. So he's been at he was at Bayern Munich what, 4 times.
Yeah,
30,
he always would come in to kind of wipe up the floor and pick up the pieces when some coach didn't work out. He'd always come in and turn things around. But yeah, let's talk a little about the Bundesliga because I do love the Bundesliga. It is my favorite league in the world to watch, of course. Maybe a little bit biased, but yeah, I think you're talking about Leverkusen and Dortmund in there, and obviously some more teams. I'm gonna have to put together a full prediction with table standings and everything, but maybe after all the transfer window closes, because moves could still be made. But I think I think I think Leverkusen is gonna fall off a little bit. I don't think they're gonna, be out of Europe or out of the top half of the table or whatever, but I think they'll probably fall down a few pegs and they might end up around fifth or something in the table. I do think Dortmund has the pieces, I think, to like finish second. Now they're Dortmund, so who knows what's going to happen. They seem to fall apart at the worst possible times, but yeah, I mean they seriously like if they can keep up what they built under Niko Kovac at the end of last year, I think Dortmund could be on pace to have a pretty solid season.
7 wins out of 8, and the draw in there, of course, was in the Klassiker in a game where if Maximilia Bayer had been given another 10 minutes, then he'd probably gone on and scored and then won that 3-2. So what a terrific turnaround it's been at Dortmund. We can give you our predictions if you want. I mean, this is like a channel exclusive. I'm happy to give it to you. So obviously
Wow.
the title's gonna be won by FC. That's not a problem. Second place is going to be the Adler SGE. It's going to be Frankfurt. Now, again, yes, they have lost Ekatike, a lot of money coming in. They did have Eli Wahi, who came
Hmm.
in. Where did he come in from? That might have been Lyon or Marseille. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
Lyonnais. I think that was last year. Michi Batshuayi was playing in Turkey, the big Belgian lad. I can, and they brought Jonathan Burke out in, right? Again, looking at his stats last season for Mainz, 18 goals, 2 assists. Now, sort of a regular playing for Deutschland for the national team.
Yeah.
He just seemed to get the cold. He seemed to get a flu a lot. Maybe he should have some jabs. I mean, as a 43-year-old man coming to winters, I've got a jab, right? Otherwise, I'm going to be,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
hanging out my backside.
I am a fan of Frankfurt too. I might have them finishing third behind Dortmund.
You can have them finishing in third.
I think so. I think so.
Okay. Right. So we'll go Munich, Frankfurt in second, Dortmund in third, Leverkusen in fourth,
Hmm.
Leipzig will finish in fifth.
Yep.
I'm going to give a shout out to, I think it'll be Stuttgart will
In
come in
six.
finish sixth. Yeah, that's our predictions. And
Yeah,
then
I might flip Leipzig and Leverkusen. I think I'll go Leipzig fourth, Leverkusen fifth, Stuttgart sixth. But there's a lot of transfers that could happen. Leipzig could lose some huge guys here, and so could Stuttgart. So we're gonna have to wait and see. But keep going. I want to hear the rest of your table.
Well, it's interesting. I was looking at that. So the transfer. I mean, if we're going to assume that Shabby is going to extend that dressing room with Big Jim at Chelsea,
Hmm.
so they're going to be missing someone there. They have brought in Johan Bakayoko from PSV again last season as a winger or an inside right. That's what 12 goals, 2 assists. He's only 22. He's a Belgian destroyer. They could end up losing Benjamin Tesco. That's a shout out to one of my regular viewers, Gaze Messiah.
Hmm.
Got a new manager in, right? What's his name?
Oh,
It doesn't matter.
it's Ali Werner, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
Is it
I
Ali
think
Werner?
I
Yeah,
think it might be. And that's just
he was Werder Bremen's coach last year.
yeah. No,
I think he's
and
Stuttgart
again,
or
there's
Leipzig now.
a few new coaches now. Just to finish this off, then in terms of relegation, I do think this is the season that we're gonna lose old Frank Schmidt. I do think that their race is run. I can see Heidenheim going down. Hoffenheim have been absolutely obliterated. Obviously, Tom Bischoff's gone to FC Bayern. One of our favourites, the guy that we always pick up, don't we, Gonzo, on a Football Manager, the midfielder, which is about 18 foot tall, Anton Stack. He's
Yeah.
gone to Dirty Leeds. So, who themselves have also taken, I was looking at this, a midfielder from Werder Bremen, Maximilian Wober. So
Hmm.
Wober, a bit questionable, but anyway. So Hoffenheim, I think, will go down with Heidenheim. And then the last club, we think it'll be St. Pauli, because as mean as they are at the back, they just don't score enough goals.
Yeah.
I think
That's
that'll be actually. I'm gonna go even further. Right, I'm gonna be so precise. It'll be Hoffenheim in 16th, Heidenheim 17th, sorry 18th, and then the playoff relegation game will be St. Pauli, and they will lose out to Darmstadt. That's
wow.
what we're going with.
What a precise prediction. I love it. You'll have to wait a little bit longer to get my full table.
That's
I'll
okay. We've
bring
been
out
thinking
this
about this
I'll
for
bring
quite a
out
while.
the suspense a little bit, but yeah, it looks like we are running out of time. So before we get out of here, again, German football spotlight. Please subscribe. Please check out the channel. Show love. Show a lot of love. Again, if you're watching this somewhere else, I'm Danny from Always Bayern Chelsea. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. This will be up on video. So, do you have any parting words before the meeting here cuts us off?
It's been an absolute pleasure, and it just proves that you should always meet your heroes. You
Big
and Jim
love.
and Mads, the way you looked after us in Cincinnati, the way we met when we met Rafinha, we hung out. We've kept this contact going. We've done a collab. Yeah, it is absolute unequivocal proof that you should always meet your heroes.
Big
And I
love.
look forward to seeing your predictions in a video as and when it comes out. But thank you so much, man. That's
Mia
right,
san
Gonzo.
mia.
Yeah, Gonzo says, yeah, Mia San Mia, thanks for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Danny.